the Madman!
Alright, welcome to the reveal season in full swing now. So we had a sneak peek of the Titans. Now we're gonna go in order of neutrals and then class cards, each class taking one day. We're gonna start with Algalon, the Observer. 4 mana 4/4, Battlecry, replace your hero's power with Algalon's Vision. As a 1 mana hero power, you can look at the top card of your opponent's deck. You may put it on the bottom of their deck. There are metas where in control versus control, your hand can fill up of useless removal cards, and Algalon's Vision could make it so that there's a much higher chance that happens to your opponent, where they're going to slowly but surely accumulate the good cards on the bottom of their deck, and on the top of their deck, they may find themselves continuously drawing these useless removal cards, which they're going to eventually perhaps have to burn on their own minions. So I'd say that's the most obvious useful use for Algalon, because if you're not planning to draw the game, then your normal hero power would probably be better. I'll just, to be fair. Yeah, the card still has utility against aggro decks and mid-range decks when they've depleted their hand, and you can ensure that they don't top deck that burn. That's actually really useful as well, but it's much less useful. Like against a lot of aggro decks, you would much rather have armor up or lesser heal in the case that you're a warrior or a priest control deck. It's worth mentioning there are a few metas where this would have been particularly good. For example, Bomb Warrior would have loved to expedite the speed at which the opponent draws into the bombs, so Algalon's Vision could have been pretty interesting there. In United in Stormwind, Quest Priest had a very big reward shuffled into their deck at the end. Algalon's Vision would have been very, very useful to make sure that was on the bottom of their deck. So in the case that there's a meta where your opponent shuffles something really good in their deck, or you shuffle something bad into the opponent's deck, Algalon the Observer could certainly be quite strong in that deck. Ignis the Eternal Flame. It's a 4-mana 2/4 Battlecry. If you forge a card this game, craft a custom weapon. So a lot like Kazakus, but the precondition is much easier to fulfill. All you have to do is forge a card. And we haven't seen that many forge cards yet, so there is a precondition of, for this card to be good, there has to be at least a few good forge cards. So very similar to Kazakus, you're going to be provided the option of either crafting a 1 mana 2/2 weapon, a 5 mana 3/4 weapon, or a 10 mana 5/6 weapon. Much like Kazakus's potions, it's going to depend on how much you value tempo versus value. In a control versus control matchup, that 10 mana 5/6 weapon could be really good. If you feel like you're imminently going to die, the 1 mana 2/2 weapon is often going to be the best craft. And I'd say the Runic Axe is a solid mid option. Probably the one that's most often going to be picked, especially since if you happen to curve the perfect forge curve, well, you could immediately start using the very powerful weapon. After you choose your weapon, you're going to be presented with a option of 3 options, and these 3 options come from a list of 5 options. Poisonous, Lifesteal, Wind Fury also damages adjacent minions, and your hero is immune while attacking. I'd say the quick way to judge the weapon is to think of, are there 3 bad options? Because if there are 3 good options and not 3 bad options, then you're always guaranteed to have at least 1 good option for your deck. I'd say these 5 traits can be boiled down to removal in the case of the Poisonous, sustainability, life gain, face damage in the case of Wind Fury, removal, similar to Poisonous in the case of also damages adjacent minions, and also life gain in the case of heroes immune while attacking, which will save you some amount of health while attacking the enemy minions. Just from these first traits, it looks like this is going to mainly, similar to Kazakus, be meant for a value or a control deck. Now the Wind Fury isn't necessarily just for aggression. The Wind Fury allows you to get the special ability off twice. That's the second thing that you're going to be picking. The higher cost weapon that you chose, the higher effect you get. So Genius of Mimiron will either summon a 2, 4, or 8 cost minion. Tremendous value, with the top end there being such a big crusher in control versus control, like huge value. Even the middle option is quite strong. When you chose Runic Axe, you're going to eventually get 4 cost minions. Path of Jotun is one that you'll choose if you're in a dire pinch. I could see that most often be chosen if you crafted the 1 cost weapon, where you can immediately deal 2 damage to something threatening, or 4 damage or 6 damage in the case of the higher weapons. Draw 1, 2, or 3 card after each attack. It almost seems like the drawing of 3 cards might be too much in the case of getting that 10 cost crafted, because by the time you play the 10 cost, you've often run out of deck. 18 cards is a little too many cards. Might lean towards wanting to pick the 5 cost weapon for the more balanced. In that case, you can play a lot of cards. This will be a great option for the combo decks, and when they miss, they can still get the survivability options and try to survive until they get their combo off. You've got Chill of Hodir, which, similar to Path of Jotun, is a one-time ability. This is a slow one, it's a death rattle, and remember that 10 cost has 6 durability, so that death rattle will take forever to trigger. Chill of Hodir looks quite bad on the middle and the large weapon due to the length of time required to get that death rattle to trigger. But the death rattle deal 1 damage to all enemies, combined with poisonous, is a board clear. Finally, 2, 4, 8 armor. Generally useful one if you're up against a aggro or mid-range deck in your control deck. I think this will often be a good pick. Of course, my value control self dreams of crafting the 10 cost weapon. By the way, that 10 cost weapon naturally does 30 damage over 6 turns, so it's kind of a one-man win condition. Runic Great Mace, due to the 6 durability, can also lifesteal 6 times. With the 5 attack weapon, that's 30 lifesteal, and that's 8 armor times 6 for 48 armor, which is a total health gain of 78. Not bad. Getting 6 summons of 8 costs seems really backbreaking in control versus control. So control v control, if it's a control metagame, you're certainly going to see Ignis around. You are going to see the 10 costs get chosen. You might need to run some weapon destruction because of the power of that 10 cost weapon. The more inclined you are to craft the 10 cost weapon though, the fewer forged cards you can put in your deck, perhaps as few as 2. I think that does feel bad though to have Ignis sit in your hand for a long time, unable to be played. So will this card be good? I think it depends on how much of the meta is going to be a control v control meta. The more control there are in the meta, the more value there is, the better Ignis is. And the better the forge cards are, the better Ignis is, for obvious reasons.